Street. It's a very, like, dude, I'm sorry. That is literally the most sinful area you can be in.
Detonated without incident. And now what we have is a complete use of every resource. I was happy to see and hear from the president early this morning. And as he said recently, that every single resource of the federal government would be made available to ensure that no stone.
They're going to clip you for this? What? Clip me to celebrate what I'm saying?
May have been a part.
When I sarcastically say the solution to this is clear, bombing Iran, that's a position that, like, the media would never clip, because then they'd be like, yeah, and we agree with him. Hasan is awesome. We're offering him a permanent slot at the 7 p.m. time slot.
Law enforcement is investigating.
Apparently, he was in fact staying in an Airbnb, not in the French Quarter, but in a nearby neighborhood of the French Quarter.
And do you know for how long?
That information is not yet available. It's an ongoing investigation, so we don't believe he was there more than a day, but that information is being gathered.
I want to show this video of the truck turning onto Bourbon Street, and just want to warn everyone, it is very disturbing. We saw the truck go around a police car and then turn onto this crowded street. And I want to play something the police captain said when asked about how something like this could happen.
Of course, it wasn't something we expected to account for. The bollards they're actually wedges. They're strategically placed 5 locations throughout the French Quarter on the roadway.
What is your reaction? I mean, should this have been something expected and accounted for?
Well, you know, I served on the city council many years ago, so I'm intimately aware of the security mechanisms to protect the French Quarter, namely Bourbon Street. And there are metal bollards that come up out of the ground that are supposed to prevent any oncoming vehicles from driving into the crowd. We were told today at a briefing that apparently they were not working properly. Therefore, there were vehicles that were placed in the place where the bollards would have been, which served as the blockade, if you will. The subject or suspect apparently went around the vehicle and jumped the sidewalk. The next question obviously be asked is, why was the sidewalk not protected? Right. There are a lot of unanswered questions as it relates to that. But one thing is for certain, as the governor said, with no uncertain terms, we will identify whatever the weakness was and fix it. Making sure that the citizens and visitors that come to New Orleans are safe is paramount.
I'm just curious, are you concerned that there was so much energy and focus in the city on the upcoming Super Bowl and even the Sugar Bowl, but really the Super Bowl, because our understanding is some of the bollards were being repaired for the Super Bowl. Do you have any concern?
Yeah, the ISIS flag is confirmed, Chatter.
Here in terms of maybe not the security being where it should have been?
Well, listen, our bollard should have been correct and fixed.
Wait, what did he say?
We manage major events in the French Quarter and in the city of New Orleans.
People in
Fox News had Kennedy on, and apparently this is what he had to say.
Just a final question here for not just people in Louisiana that are watching, but people coast to coast that are watching tonight. Are you getting the sense that there's any threat of any other potential attacks tonight on any other major cities?
I can't answer that. I can, but I won't.
Is New Orleans safe tonight?
Yes, but we're still in the process of tightening up security. We're still in the process of doing everything that we possibly can. The governor's called out the National Guard. We've got more FBI coming. We've got Homeland Security people. We've got state troopers who've done an awesome job. We've got the
Well, I can.
NOPD. We're doing everything we can, but like I say, there's a lot of information out there. Some of it's accurate.
Okay.
I mean, he's just doing it because he's hamming up whatever narrative. How did this idiot make it to the Senate? I'm going to once again repeat that the man you are talking about graduated from Oxford, and is a Rhodes Scholar. Okay? Just because he portrays himself to be a certain way with that foghorn leghorn accent doesn't mean that he's actually not very knowledgeable. Okay?
Believe that Jabbar was solely responsible.
The FBI says Jabbar was driving a rented Ford pickup truck.
An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle, and the FBI
Wasn't that
is
not
working
true?
to
No, it is true.
subject's potential associations and affiliations with terrorist organizations.
The FBI says also found in the truck weapons and an improvised explosive device, plus 2 IEDs found elsewhere in the French Quarter were rendered safe.
After hitting the crowd, he exited the vehicle and fired upon local law enforcement. Law enforcement.
Oh, by the way,
returned
they're saying
fire,
the
and
FBI
subject
woman
was
is
pronounced
DEI.
deceased.
An FBI agent with a nose ring who could barely speak coherent English sentences told the media that a terrorist driving a truck with an ISIS flag killing 10 Americans is not a terrorist attack. Seriously, listen to this. We need Kash Patel now.
We'll be taking over the investigative lead for this event. This is.
By the way, DEI just straight up anti-black in this situation. Okay? Just like, because he ties it back to we need Kash Patel. We need to put a competent Indian man on top of the FBI because black people are incompetent. That's crazy. Anti-black, anti-woman. So that's a clip from RT, by the way. Who cares that the clip is from RT? I saw this clip earlier. I saw this clip earlier as well when initially they said we have no evidence to suspect that this is an act of terror. It's yes.
Not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive. Patrick said we'll be taking over the investigative lead for this event. This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is.
Guys, this is when they first took over the investigation. This is why I told you that even official, verified pieces of information that comes out in the beginning, also she is speaking fine, by the way, is not going to be 100% accurate. That's it.
His family then changed his mind, instead joining ISIS. Court documents showing the suspect struggled financially in recent years. Ed Lavandera is in Houston with more on the suspect.
Just a reminder, the Waukesha driver who did a similar attack was a sovereign citizen. He was labeled a terrorist and the media called him a BLM extremist. In reality, he was a right-wing nut job. Yes, that happens all the time, and no one ever gets punished. If you are wrong in a reactionary way, then you rarely ever get punished for it. After every mass shooting, they say it's a trans person, okay? And then they double down, triple down, quadruple down, and it doesn't matter. And the same people that say that will then turn around and say the same things over and over again.
That this search is related to that investigation. And as you mentioned, we are learning more about this this suspect who in several various sources that we've been able to comb throughout the day, the suspect had been battling some financial troubles, worked in real estate and information technologies systems, and studied that as well. But in court documents we've been able to reveal, he talked about the financial struggles that he had been going through in recent years. From 2019 to 2023, he had a real estate license here in Texas. But in court documents connected to he was sued by the mother of 2 of his children back in 2012 over child support payments. And in some of those documents, we've learned that in recent years, he talked about being carrying debt of nearly $30,000, owing credit card debt, and also struggling to make payments on his home. We've also come across a YouTube video that was posted back in 2020 about the time that he was getting into real estate here in.
Once again, not to glaze this little corner of the internet that we have, but CNN is covering stuff that we talked about, 4 hours ago at this point, which is pretty crazy.
All my life, with the exception of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist.
And Pamela, this is back here in this North Houston neighborhood where officials here have been very tight-lipped throughout the day, not saying much exactly as to what has been happening here at this search, but that this search continues and it's been going on for several hours.
They have to confirm stuff? No,
right,
we confirm stuff too.
Now the former FBI Supervisory Special Agent Rob D'Amico. Rob, Ed just laid out the suspect and his history. How does someone like that become so radicalized and do something like this?
Well, I think part of it is these groups are very good at getting to people that want to blame someone.
I don't immediately jump. I use certain pieces of information that is revealed, and then I add additional puzzle pieces. I don't just like go randomly and start blaming random people.
Blame on others and then getting them to act on it. We've seen it in the white supremacist movement. We've seen it in the terrorist groups. They're very good at that, and that's how they recruit them, and then that's how they get them to take action. So I think you're going to see probably when it started to the spiraling.
You still have a no
effects
breaking
that we
news
saw
rule.
from him finally taking action.
I think you know
Obviously, if he's
what it
planning
is.
to kill his family, the mental health issue is there too, and I think it's a combination.
Yeah, he said in the recordings, according to our John Miller, that he at first thought about bringing his family together for a celebration and then killing them.
It's wild that the media still in 2025 says, like, I can't believe an American veteran would turn into a terrorist. Like, what are we talking about? American veterans are primed for radicalization. Of course. It's shocking that there aren't more. They literally have they can get crippling PTSD from basic training, okay? Even if they have a desk job for the most part. And especially if they have and this guy toured as well. He went to Afghanistan. Like, they have all of these medical needs that the government says they're going to attend to and then don't. Sometimes they're overprescribed with medication. That is if they get medication at all. And yeah, it's a prime vector for radicalization. These are some of the most vulnerable people. We just use them and discard them. And also, they're trained to do violence. Like, it doesn't make any sense when the media's like, I'm so shocked. I'm so shocked that a American veteran could do this. How was that shocking?
Wasn't open. That pickup truck could have pushed that one patrol car. That was traffic enforcement. That's not blockading a vehicle with someone with an intent to do this.
Oh my God.
And I think
oh my God. CNN corrected their reporting and said these people were bystanders, but Fox is still going with it.
4 or 5 accomplices. We don't know exactly who they are or how many or how they're related, but someone, apparently 3 men and a woman, planted IEDs. They
Oh my God.
planted them between cop cars, and they planted.
Guys, this is important to note because your mom and dad are going to be thinking this now, and you're going to have a conversation with them about how this is untrue. I'm just letting you know. If they're still running with this narrative and they haven't corrected yet, I suspect that you're going to have a conversation with your parents at home.
Planted them near the cathedral. That is a classic hallmark for ISIS as they conduct their terror sprees all over the world, whether it's Germany or Nigeria, blowing up churches in the Philippines. And everyone should take note. Today was not just any day. For many Catholics in New Orleans, it's a feast day, a day of obligation where everybody comes together.
Oh, it was anti-Catholic violence too.
Together and goes to Mass. So whoever was planning this clearly knew or had some semblance of understanding that this was a holy day and Catholics would be assembling maybe at this oldest place of worship in the city of New Orleans, the cathedral. And I think we need to refocus on the terror that ISIS and Islamic radicals pose to us all over the West, throughout the West, not only in the United States.
Yeah, I was actually touched by the one of the teams that's playing tomorrow is Notre Dame, and to see their fans gathering in prayer was really interesting. All right, I want
to. Yeah. Famously, Catholics love attending Mass at 3 a.m. on New Year's. A very famous on Bourbon Street. it's a very, like, dude, I'm sorry. That is literally the most sinful area you can be in. Okay? That is the most sinful area that you can be in if you believe in such things. I do not, but I'm stating, like, that seems like that's a God-free zone at that point. It is the least. The titty per capita is incredibly high, and it's a beautiful thing. I'm not even saying that. I mean, make no mistake, I am not criticizing it. I'm just saying that it doesn't. These guys are overextending in an effort to make this like ISIS is trying to do an Islamic style anti-Christian attack here, but you're talking about Bourbon Street.
Growing number of terror threats in the U.S. NBC senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has the details.
Tonight, the nation's capital is under heightened security out of what police say is an abundance of caution, though there is no specific threat. With a slew of major security events this month in D.C., the January 6th anniversary, former President Carter's funeral, and the inauguration of President-elect Trump, federal authorities are on high alert.
Well, the reaction was one of anger and frustration.
While investigators have not yet determined a motive in the New Orleans attack, they say the suspect had an ISIS flag on his truck as he carried it out. There are also mounting questions about the Las Vegas explosion outside a Trump hotel. And in a sign of the growing danger, experts say the number of domestic terrorist attacks and plots against government targets alone, motivated by political beliefs in the past 5 years, was nearly triple the previous 25 years combined. The FBI has also been warning the threat from homegrown violent extremists that are jihadist-inspired is surging.
Since October 7th, though, that threat has gone to a whole nother level.
Add to that the unprecedented 2 assassination attempts this summer.
Bro, I'm sorry, but since October 7, what Islamic style Hamas-backed attacks have occurred in the United States of America? If anything, the hyper focus on random they, them, non-binary queer English majors on Ivy League institutions exercising their First Amendment rights is probably taken away from the fucking actual bandwidth that these agencies are supposed to dedicate themselves to combating actual terror. Like, what are you saying? What are you saying? On the one hand, our surveillance state has been going full tilt in prosecuting, surveilling, harassing, sometimes detaining and arresting college students, and the media has elevated that as the peak of terror. On the other hand, they're trying to tie back a dude who's like ramming through a crowd with a ISIS flag in the back of his pickup truck and saying like, well, you know, violence has increased dramatically since October 7. That is insane. That is insane. You can't live in this world. Like, you can't exist in this world where students that are like, Israel is an apartheid, which is true, which is just like objectively correct statement, and we want to protest against that, is in the same vein as like a dude being like, I am a victim of divorce court, so now I'm ISIS. Like that. It's wild.
The president choosing to address the American people tonight with that 5-minute address from Camp David, talking about this latest apparent or potential terrorist attack on American soil.
Hasan, I agree, but the same is true with Biden claiming white supremacy is the #1 domestic terror threat. No, that is objectively true, chatter. Statistically speaking, that is correct. Okay? Post 9/11, the overwhelming majority of domestic terror incidents have been conducted by white supremacists, far-right, anti-government extremists. Okay? That's literally true. And in many circumstances, we do not treat it as though it is an act of terror regardless. So yeah, if you actually were interested in apprehension and counterterrorism, you would probably focus on that. The problem is our law enforcement agencies are just so incompetent that instead of engaging in apprehension and counterterrorism operations, they end up usually goading the white supremacists into doing stuff only to then entrap them and turn around and go, yeah, we did it. We got them. It works in the same exact way as they did with the Islamic terror as well. And the people that do actually get radicalized and take matters in their own hands, the government will turn around and say the classic line, the famous line, he was on our radar. That's it. Why do you think they always turn around and say, he was on our radar? The shooter was on our radar. This mass shooter was on our radar. Nice. Some good old increased AFBI, DHS funding, and CVS policies coming in soon in order to further legitimize continuing and worsening repression of Muslims and anti-Palestinian, anti-genocide groups in the name of mitigating radicalization. Special shout out to Luigi. Yeah.
The postponed Sugar Bowl at the Superdome. Stay with us.
Also, like, Biden is so not wrong about the white supremacist stuff that chatters. 2 of the thwarted, unsuccessful assassination attempts against Donald Trump, both of them were conducted by, one was conducted by a registered Republican, the other was conducted by a former Trump voter. Okay? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to think, but genuinely, it's always like, this isn't to say that there is something about like white people or all white men are like this. I'm not saying that at all. And most people don't believe that anyway. It's virtually impossible to believe that in a society dominated by white men in general. So we automatically have a way of accurately pinpointing their point of radicalization when the perpetrators are white men. When it's not a white man, however, this is a damning indication for all whatever marginalized group this person is from. Dog, we got a female white supremacist shooter before a legitimate Islamic terror attack. Yeah. No. Yeah, she got caught.
Would have done, but now you see a larger police presence out there. You also have a number of UGA fans, a lot of Notre Dame fans here who are wondering the same thing. Should I go to the game? Even on the way here, some were just getting that alert that the game was going to be postponed. Many of them figuring, would it be safe?